excited about today's episode because who I have with me today is the Joe Tanowski with ECRM Range Me. And Joe brings a wealth of content management, retail, CPG industry, all things media, social media, branding. I'm Dawn Nicole McElwain, and I should have started with that. And the name of today's talk is Talks on Demand. And this is our first episode, and I'm honored to have the Joe Tanowski with us today. Joe, how are you feeling? Happy New Year, my friend. How are you doing?
Happy New Year. I'm doing good. Getting ready to start the year off strong.
Absolutely, we are. Starting with this talk, there's so many women in the product and retail space who want to understand. So, for today's topic, we're really going to be talking about how to gain that brand exposure as a new emerging brand in the retail environment. Joe, you know firsthand, there's a lot of women who are used to selling in the mom and pop store or kind of in their local neighborhood, but now they're going to retail and they've got questions and you've got answers. Okay?
Let's
So,
get into it.
let's get into it. So, one of the questions that I wrote down that I hear over and over is what are the top strategies for emerging brands when they're looking to stand out? What do you recommend?
Okay, well, main thing is obviously the product has to be set, it's got to be good. It's got to be aligned with what the consumer needs are. So it starts with the product, but from there it's going to be you have the marketing, you got to get on the shelves. You want to get in front of the buyers, get the buyers' attention and get on the shelves. And the one thing I need to emphasize right off the bat. And lately, I've been doing a lot of interviews with women who own businesses that have had a lot of success. And the one thing I need to emphasize is patience. Patience is really important. You have to going in, you have to realize that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Um, these buyers, especially at the larger retail chains, they're all about making sure their category succeeds. We all, as suppliers, you all love your products. They're your babies, right? You might have, developed them to based on something that you came up with to address
Yeah.
a family thing, or you
Hmm.
know. But you have to realize the buyer. It's not that they don't care, but the
Yeah.
buyer's chief goal is to drive their category profitability. So
Yes.
no matter what you do, when it comes to getting into retail, you always have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for the buyer? What are you going to
Yeah.
do to help that buyer grow the category? So direct to consumer, it's a different world.
Yeah.
You're on Amazon. You're all talking about the consumer needs, right? The
Hmm.
consumer needs, and that is important too,
Yeah.
and it is part of the buyer message, right? What are you doing? How are you solving a unmet consumer need,
Hmm.
and how you're different, right? That's
Hmm.
the other thing. You have to be able to prepare to explain how your product meets that need and how it's different than everything else out there. You don't want to downplay or trash, any competitors, but you
Yeah.
want to really focus on your point of differentiation and
Yeah.
then how you're going to really, really support that buyer.
I've got a question here because this is so good. You just sparked a question. So, just for some lingo, when you say direct to consumer, for all those listening out there, that's when the women they're selling their products directly from their own site, their own
Mhm.
trunk, right, their kitchen. But once we go into retail, this is what we're talking about: is you have to almost have an agenda or an objective in mind to how are you going to meet the needs of that retailer, right? That buyer is
Mhm.
really when will they get an opportunity? Joe, can you talk specifically about the ECRM Range Me opportunity? And when would a woman product owner get an opportunity to convey that objective? Are there pre meetings? How does that go? How do you even get there?
Sure.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, there's two different routes
Yeah.
with the ECRM and Range Me,
Yeah.
and they kind of overlap.
Yeah.
So the way we set it up is so Range Me has different tiers of subscriptions, and then you have different levels of participation in ECRM sessions. So think of it this way. So think of I'm going to put it in very simple terms to everybody out there, but it does get a little more complex. So think of Range Me as like the LinkedIn connecting buyers, retail buyers
Sure.
with brands, right?
Yeah.
So it's all digital. It's primarily, passive, right? For the most part, the buyers need to reach out to you and initiate the conversation. However, at different subscription levels, there are options for directly reaching out to the buyer. So with RangeMe, you have a free a free profile, which everybody can just start to just get up there. And it's you can put three products up and images and information about it. And again, it'll show up in the searches. And again, that's SEO is important and all that, but certifications are certainly important as well because they search on there. But it's passive for the free one.
Yeah.
Then for $99 a year, it's RangeMe Starter. So you get to put unlimited number of products
Mm-hmm.
and you have the ability to participate in what's called immediate opportunities.
Ah,
Those are, we have about 400 of them. Last year we ran 400.
yeah.
And that's when you'll have a major retailer or food service operator, because we handle that too,
Mm-hmm.
will post in the immediate opportunity section. There'll
Yeah.
be a post saying, let's say CVS is doing a review for skincare.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as a starter member, you can apply. You could submit your brand to that. So it's a little more active and you're actually getting in front of those buyers when they are reviewing your products.
I see.
And there's a few other benefits with that. And then the next tier up is premium, which enables it has a few other benefits. You could get RangeMe verified, which is basically we do some research and make sure you're ready to do business with retail. You get a check mark, you
Mm-hmm.
show up early in searches, but you also, in addition to the immediate opportunities, you can also submit products once a year directly to retailers at any time. So,
Love
and then
that.
there's also you have insights on the buyer activity on your profile, so you could see which of your products are gaining the most interest. You can see which what the buyers are doing on your profile, how they're navigating that, and you get access to free Nielsen IQ data for your categories. So,
So this is really very interesting stuff. And I'm
mhm,
glad you broke that down because through this partnership, and I should have made that clear that Queen City Women in Business is excited about its new partnership with ECR and Range Me. Our women members specifically get a Queen City Women in Business discount when they
mhm.
get one of those packages. And so what I hear you saying, Joe, is it is more advantageous, although the free is always an option, right? Who doesn't love free? But
Anybody should do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
anybody, you should do that, right?
Everything that you put in your arrangement profile is what a buyer would ask you in a meeting. So
Ah,
that's how we framed it. When it's very, we kind of guide you through the profile process.
yeah.
So by asking questions as you fill it out, and essentially it's the same thing. You want to make sure all of the key information is in there and the key terms. If you're a women-owned business, you want to make sure it's indicated there. If you're a natural organic, if you
Yeah.
any types of awards or things that you have, and then you could also list your certifications.
I speaking of certifications, I get this question all the time, and I don't know if you hear it all the time yourself, but especially because we run a women-owned business organization,
Mhm.
right? Where we help women get connected to corporate contracts faster. I get all the time, Dawn Nicole, should I list my woman-owned business certification? Does it help? Does it add any value? And I have some thoughts about that, but I
Mhm.
want to
Yeah,
know
no, I was just gonna ask you about that,
well,
and then sure.
so this is what I will say. This is America. So we love all small businesses, right?
Mhm,
Like the American dream is for a small business to succeed and to win. Yes,
mhm,
right? Whether you're in the product space or service space. However, there are also women-led organizations like ours who are looking to support. And as a result, I think when people are looking to support women-owned organizations, it does not hurt to put that somewhere on your branding and your packaging, especially if it is a unique differentiator.
mhm.
And Joe, I want to show you something, right? So this right here, this is don't worry, folks, the pot pie is not in here. I took the box. I remember being in a store locally, Harris
Mhm.
Teeter. Now they're not everywhere, but if you're in the
I'm
Carolinas,
very familiar with them,
you're
though. Yeah.
familiar. Well, I was delighted to know that not only do I love a good pot pie, but then I saw this women owned sign and I
Mhm.
thought, you betcha I'm
Yep.
buying them. Right. And so, what I'm saying is that there is a healthy amount of people out there like me who are looking for women owned businesses to support.
Mhm.
So, absolutely, I think anything that we can put on our branding and packaging, and notice they have it right on their packaging. So, this is
Yep.
a great example. Joe, do you see this as well? Can you talk about what this looks like? Yeah.
Yes, and in fact, it's so important. I would recommend that they put that on the front something on
Ah,
the front of the package because over the past, I would just point it out to somebody else because we have Women's History Month coming out, is that 11 of the past 18 success stories I've written for RangeMate are about women-owned businesses. It's become such a big thing, so popular. It's such an advantage that
wow.
in profiles and arrangement profiles, we actually recommend you put those certifications on your top banner, right? And we put a
Wow.
little some
Yeah.
product images, but also women-owned.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you have the certifications, it's there's tabs where you could indicate which certification you have.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you have those certifications, um, it is a plus in several different ways. One, and we didn't talk about the actual shelf, but when you're on the shelf, obviously product packaging, the look, you
Yeah.
want it to be stand out among the other packages that are on the shelf. When you're designing your packaging, you should be walking the stores, seeing what your competition is, and seeing how you could create colors and visuals and text that's different.
Yeah.
But also, any certifications you have, particularly when women-owned business related,
Mhm.
make sure that they're highlighted because on the one side, the buyers, they're very interested in that. And the reason is because their shoppers are interested in that. They're
Yeah.
looking for, or they'll show preference for different certifications.
Yeah.
And like veterans, they're gonna lean towards veteran owned, but women owned is a very big one. Look, more
Yeah.
than half the country is women.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll see that a lot of the brands that I've seen that are
Mhm.
husband and wife owned, the wife always has 51% or
Always.
whatever, whatever that level is so that they
Yeah.
can get that women-owned
Yeah.
certification. It's so important that,
Yeah.
even if it's his company, no,
Yeah.
it's really technically on paper, it's her company because that certification is such an important thing. So yeah, anywhere that you could highlight that, I
Yeah.
recommend even in the front of the package. Maybe it doesn't have to have that big square. You could put the big square on the back, but somewhere in the front, it should also say women owned.
I love that. Yeah, you're right, because had I not picked it up, I wouldn't have seen it. Now, I do want to make this one point and then I want to move on because I've got two really, really pressing, burning questions I must
Mhm.
ask you, Joe. I will say recently I've walked into a Harris Teeter or Publix. I can't remember now which retailer, and I saw a woman owned section. No
Yes,
kidding.
yes,
Talk
yep,
about that for a quick second.
yes.
I want these
Well,
ladies to be excited to hear this. Yeah.
a lot of retailers started doing that, whether it's supplier diversity or like diverse zone section, or they're highlighting brands, and it may change month to month. During Pride Month, they'll have LGBTQ owned
Yeah.
brands, a
Yeah.
section with that. During March, you could be sure during March they're going to have some, So anytime that that's involved, and that's the other thing is, whenever they're doing something, make sure you highlight it. It's like, listen, we could do all these promotions
Yeah.
to support our brand in your stores
Yeah.
around Women's History Month.
That is a perfect segue. So it's like you read my mind. I don't know how you're doing this. You're magical, Joe. Let's talk about online presence. This brings me to,
Mhm,
so I want to talk about that woman-owned brand out there who's looking to go to retail, and she's already done a great job of building her brand on her own, right? Great
mhm.
website, great social media following, loyal fan base. What role does that play, if any, when it comes to the decision making or catching the eye of a big box brand or retailer? Tell me how important online presence is.
Huge, huge. Cannot
Mm,
overstate how huge it is. A couple reasons. One, almost all shopping journeys now start online anyway, right? Even if I'm going to buy something in a store, I'm going to do my research online. Especially, it really accelerated during the pandemic when
yeah,
people started. They were home, they had more time, they were shopping online, they would spend more time researching brands. But now, people are getting all of their ideas from TikTok, from Instagram. I mean, TikTok, give you an idea how important digital is.
sure.
TikTok Shop only launched in 2013, and I think by the end of last year, the beauty category was like, uh, I think it was the ninth biggest beauty e-commerce site. So people are going online for the
Wait, wait, wait.
information.
The ninth? Are you kidding
Ninth,
me?
yeah, ninth largest. Yes, I did an interview. We had Nielsen IQ spoke at one of our sessions, and they brought up that data.
Yeah.
But and a lot of this, and just to let everybody know, on the ECRM and the Range Me blogs are a lot of my interviews that I've done with a lot of these brands. So you'll
Yeah.
find there's some in-depth discussions on the challenges they faced and how they overcame them,
And
and
we'll put the link. We'll put the link in
sure,
post-production so
sure.
people can
But yeah,
see that.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of information. Our YouTube
Yeah.
channel, there's, I think I've done
Wow.
1,800 interviews with a lot of these brands over the years that I've been
Yeah.
doing it. But yeah, online is huge. If now, you want to be everywhere. You want to be everywhere that your customers could be online. So you want to be um, in groups. You want to be. I mean, let me give you a little story
Yeah,
of how
please.
important, and then I'll segue into why it's important for the buyers
Sure.
too.
Yeah.
So there's a company on RangeMe called Gear Hall. It's
Mhm.
not women owned. It's
Yeah.
owned by a dude, and it's all about dude equipment. It's they make equipment that securely stores and helps you transport heavy outdoor equipment like chainsaws and stuff like that. Now,
Yeah.
when he started, he was mostly direct to consumer. And what he did was he would go into every Facebook group that he could find about outdoor construction, outdoor, whatever,
Sure.
anything that where someone would use the types of tools that would require his stuff. And he would just spend hours participating in conversations, not pitching his products, but
Mhm.
just, and he said he spent thousands of hours in in those groups
Yeah.
having conversations. And what happened over months and years is they started viewing him as an expert, and through the conversations, organically his equipment would come up, and then he would start to sell it, and it just blew up from there. And
Yeah.
now through RangeMe, he's in Tractor Supply, he's in
Oh
Walmart,
my
he's in
god.
Lowe's, he's in Home Depot, so but again, it was spending time online engaging with his audience.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
why is that important for the buyers? Once you get on the shelf,
Right.
that's only the start of it. Now
Right.
your journey is to get your products off the shelf and into the shopper's basket.
Yes.
That's where your online presence also comes in, because at ECRM meetings, the buyers are always asking, how are you going to support sales at the shelf? And one of the things they always want to know is, what is your social media presence like?
Okay.
And will you promote it?
I wanted to you just oh my gosh. Okay, you just opened up a whole can of worms that I want to talk about. So there's two things I must get out. Thank you, Joe, for triggering
Mhm.
more questions for me. So let's talk about this. And then I absolutely want to switch after this to data because you said some things
Mhm.
about Nielsen and I want to understand
Sure.
how important data is. But before I ask that question,
Mhm.
here's what I know. When we were looking to broker the relationship with Walmart, okay, one of the concerns that we heard is Dawn Nicole, while we can get them on store shelves, it's like they get there and they still deer in the headlights. They think it's
Mhm.
all done. They don't realize that 85% of the lifting is what they talk about, what
Yes.
they do, how they send. Talk to me about, okay, Tabitha has her things on store shelves, her widgets, her products. And what is her now responsibility as it relates to getting the word out? What does that look like? Can you make that real for us?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, once it's on the shelves, you got to put a plan in place to, like, what are you going to do, like, from before it's on the shelf as you're setting up, to when the launch is, to ongoing. So obviously some of it might involve trade spend or advertising spend, things like that, social media promotions on your social that drive people to the store. But also there's some little things, softer kind of things, like get in the store and get to know everybody in the store.
Yeah.
Get shove samples in the hands
I
of
love
all
it.
the store employees, right?
Yeah.
If there's
Yeah.
a store associate on the floor and they love your product personally, well, they're good. Chances are they're going to help recommend it
Yeah.
to some, set up demos, right? You want to be in the store. You want to meet the customers. If you're in some local area, you could do, not, well, I guess it could be called guerrilla marketing, but get to know the local newspapers and,
Yeah.
send editors the samples and say, hey, look, this is going to be at the Walmart. We're going to have a
Yeah.
tasting,
I love
anything
that.
like that, anything around there, you're going to have boots on the ground.
Yeah.
You want to get out there, especially if you're small. You don't have time. You can't afford to hire a demo company. You
Yeah.
can't hire, people to do these things for you.
Yeah.
So you want to get out there, get to meet everybody, meet the store staff, as many, people in at least the department that you're
So
in,
smart.
and anything to get them knowledgeable about your products so that if somebody's asking questions, they
Yeah.
can actually talk about the products
I
themselves.
love that. See, I just got to tell you this real fast. There's a lot of like coaches and professionals and experts who can tell you what, but they can't tell you how. I am the queen
Mhm.
of how. I will not
Yeah,
let you go until you give us the how steps. Joe, you're doing that masterfully. One more question,
sure.
a few more questions. I can't so a few more questions and then we'll switch gears here. I here's what I want to know. You talked earlier about data. Talk to me about the type of data. So I'm on store shelves. I've been on store shelves now for 90 days with,
Mhm.
let's just say this major retailer. What type of data are they looking for? So first, what do they care about? Why? What type of data? Talk to me. What is it, Joe?
Sure. Well, we'll do two parts. First
Yeah.
is before you get on the shelf,
Yeah.
the data that they're going to want is any data that you have that shows that you're selling, right? So
Yeah.
maybe that's Amazon data. Maybe you're only on Amazon and you're doing it through Shopify or whatever. So any data that you have there that shows the volume, that shows the number of sales, that and maybe you have some local or regional people, and so if you could buy syndicated data, eventually you're going to have to, but if you can get a hold of some of that, if it's relevant. If you're online only, you may not have that yet, um, but once you get on the shelves, they're going to want to know things, but also beforehand they're going to want to know um, what kind of success you've had in other places. They're going to want to know your margins. They want to know your projected velocity, or the velocity in the places where you're at. But that's one of the things that they're going to look at once you're on the shelf too. Is they want to see what kind of velocity you have. They want to know what kind of dollars you can throw
Can you
behind marketing
explain
support.
velocity real fast? I know what you mean, but I want to make sure they understand. When you say velocity, what do you really mean
The
there?
the product turns, how many you're selling per week,
Gotcha.
how
Gotcha.
many
Per week,
units.
per,
Yeah.
yep. Okay.
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
you're not a high margin product,
Hmm.
they're going to want a certain number of turns every week to keep you
Ah,
on the shelf. If
okay.
you're a high margin product, maybe it wouldn't require, again, profit.
Yeah.
So if you're a very expensive product, with a high margin, it's got
Mhm.
not going to require as many turns. But yeah, they want to see that product moving on a regular basis steadily. I mean, sure, it's going to take a bump when you promote it,
Yeah.
but it's got to be going at a steady pace all the time. And again, that's where regular social media, you know, that's where you got to watch out with using outside influences too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
better if the brand becomes the social media influencer themselves,
Ah,
because then,
so good.
if you, and I've talked to buyers about this, where one buyer told me, the brand hires an influencer, gets a uptick for the week, but then that influencer moves on to another customer,
Right.
and then it drops below
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Whereas I know some of the brands that we work with. There's one person, Pacino's signature line.
Yeah.
He does men's personal care products. He was a celebrity barber, so
Oh,
he has a Instagram profile with like 800,000, 900,000 followers. And when he is in a store, he will actually shoot videos from that Target store. It's like
I love
him
that.
and a bunch of models and music playing, and but to drive people to that store, and he'll do that, so on a regular basis. So
Mhm.
anything you could do to keep that velocity going
Yeah.
consistently over time. Again, it always comes down to how are you going to make that buyer money, that buyer's category money.
Yeah, I love it. Joe, listen, we could talk all day. This is good. Here's what I want to say. I
Mhm,
do know for a fact that this year, Range ECRM, Range Me, and QCWIB is focused on putting more women on store shelves. This is our
mhm,
focus, and this is the angle of our partnership. Where can they find you, Joe? The best way for folks to follow, is it the YouTube channel? Obviously, we're going to promote the links for
mhm.
them to take advantage of, their
Yeah.
accounts with Range Me. But where can they follow and find you?
All right. If the best place to find me personally is on LinkedIn. So
Ah,
just go to LinkedIn. All right. Joseph Tarnowski, Tarnowski, and I'll pop up, and then you will not stop seeing my face ever, because I do a lot of video interviews, and do a lot of selfie videos. I posted 3 already this week, usually snippets of advice
yeah, yeah,
on, different things. Like I did one on transparency, I did one on patience,
yeah.
I did one today about taking cold showers, which is something I do in the mornings to kind of get me
I
going.
gotta go check that out.
Yeah, so I love it. It really, gives me a burst of energy in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then you ECRM and RangeMe both have LinkedIn pages, and usually and that will kind of connect you to everything else because our YouTube videos go there, our blog posts go there and stuff. But you could go to either of those places. We practice what we preach. We try to be in as many places as we can. We're very LinkedIn heavy because we're business to business,
Yeah.
and but yeah, you can find me all over that.
Absolutely. And listen, if you're listening out there, the first thing you want to do when you hear this episode of Talks on Demand, go follow ECRM Range Me. And that is an order, right? Because I always tell people you can't play if you're not in the game. I had someone say to me, because by the way, this is not our first talk with ECRM. We brought you all in the summer. And one of my folks said, "Hey, Dawn Nicole, there was all these great conferences coming up and I miss them and I don't know how to keep up." You know what? First of all, follow ECRM Arranged Me. Secondly, go get your account, right? Make sure you follow them on YouTube because you all are very transparent about
Hmm.
expos and events
Yes.
and things coming up. But you've got to be in the network and in the know, right? To be connected.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and we do have
yeah,
two separate. So ECRM has its own LinkedIn page. RangeMe has its own LinkedIn page. We do have our own websites. However, each website does have, like ECRM has a RangeMe section, RangeMe has an ECRM section.
perfect.
And because there's so much overlap
Yeah.
that a lot of our RangeMe customers ultimately end up doing face-to-face meetings at ECRM sessions.
I love it. I love it. And we're going to publish on the screen at this point a list of top brands. I mean, this is your access point. This is your gateway into those retailers. I mean, this is an awesome partnership. So, Joe, it's been fun. Thank you for being our very first guest of Talks on
I
Demand.
am honored to be your first guest.
Thank you so much. And listen, everyone, to everyone out there, stay on the grow and in the know and in the network. Until next time, we'll see you at the next Talks on Demand with Dawn Nicole. Take care.